Okay, it looks like I don't see anyone else really filtering in. So, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for taking time out of your schedule to be on the call today. We're excited to share some information about the Campbell Hall renovation and specifically the move out process with everyone. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Our agenda today, I'm going to do some introductions here at the beginning. And then we'll get into some of the moving assignments, which I'm sure everyone is interested in that information, and then some guidelines about the moving process, some more specific information about where people will be moving to. And then at the end, we'll address some of the questions that were submitted before this, and we'll also leave a good amount of time at the end to open it up for any questions you might have after the presentation. So I'll start by introducing my department, which is facilities design and construction. We basically oversee the construction projects on campus, so the Campbell Hall renovation. And part of that is moving people in and out of buildings, moving people into the swing spaces while we're renovating buildings. So we've dealt with this before, and we're here to assist the college with this process and provide the knowledge that we've gained through our other projects. And then a term you'll hear us use today, swing space, which is basically just another way of saying that temporary space where everyone will be working while the renovation is going on. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page with that. So just another way of saying that temporary working environment. So I am Chris Kuhn. I'm an associate project manager in facilities design and construction. You can see my email there on the screen. I'm kind of involved specifically to handle the moving part of this project. So I'll be kind of your day-to-day point of contact for any questions you might have about moving. Also on the call today is Morgan Richardson, who's the project manager for the entire Campbell Hall renovation project. She'll be less involved specifically with the move, but still a resource. And then Faye Bodike, who's director of projects for the academic team and facilities design and construction, is also on the call today, and she's involved in the project at a slightly higher level than Morgan. And then we've also created this presentation in conjunction with the moving task force that was assembled by the college, and you can see those folks on the screen here. I want to thank those people. I know that at least a few of them are on the call this afternoon. They kind of workshop this presentation and voice some of the concerns that faculty and staff have had, and we hope to address a lot of those in this presentation today. And we'll continue to work with this group throughout this whole process to gather feedback and get their input and ask the questions that many of you may be asking. So right up front, we'll kind of talk about some of the moving assignments and generally where people are going to be going as we clear out Campbell Hall to prepare for the renovation. So just overview is the dry lab research projects will be moving to Ramseyer Hall. And again, later in the presentation, we'll have some more specific information for the different groups of people and where they'll be relocating. But generally speaking, those dry lab research projects will be relocating to Ramseyer Hall. The wet lab research projects will be moving to Evans Lab. And then other faculty and staff will be working with either a remote or hybrid schedule, depending on what you work out with your department. And those people, just due to the limited nature of swing space on campus, they may not have an individually assigned workstation. Now, that being said, we're still going to be able to provide areas for those folks to work when they are on campus. If you're in that hybrid model, we call those touchdown spaces, which are kind of a desk setup that you can go to if maybe you teach a class in person and need to work for a couple hours on campus. Spaces like that will be provided. Also being provided will be private meeting spaces, and you'll be able to schedule those. Faculty for office hours or faculty and staff can have private meetings or private conversations in those areas. And then we'll mention this a few times in the presentation, but the final day to be out of Campbell Hall is May 27th, 2023. So again, we'll hit on that a couple more times, but that's an important date for everyone to keep in mind. So we also want to mention, again, that just the reason that we aren't able to assign everyone an individual space to work from is because of the scarce nature of swing space on campus. It's very limited. And I guess we do recognize that this is going to be an inconvenience for a lot of folks. And thank you everyone for your patience during this process. At the same time, we're very excited for the project that's going to happen in Campbell Hall, and we're really looking forward to moving everyone back in a couple years. But we don't want to downplay the impact that this might have on some people's working situation. So thanks again for your patience and understanding, and we're here to help you in any way that we can. So talking about some general guidelines regarding the moving, assistance will not be provided to pack belongings. It's just cost prohibitive. So we're going to be relying on the occupants to pack their belongings. And then whether you're going to be relocated to another building on campus, or you're going to be working from home or moving, most of your stuff home and using that hybrid model, all personal items need to go home. So the movers will not be moving any personal items. They can't be left behind in the building. The contractor was not hired to dispose of any personal items that people left behind. So we ask that all of those items go home. And then we are suggesting that kind of as soon as possible, people start preparing for this, just because, it can be a little time consuming to sort through all of your belongings. So, and we'll get into some more specific guidelines on the preparation stuff you can do later on in the presentation. So this, again, preparing to move stuff, purging the outdated, duplicate, unnecessary paper documents, basically stuff that we don't need to hold on to. So I have put on here a couple of disclaimers. So one being, we of course want to keep in mind the OSU record management policy regarding the institutional data and records, and you can find more resources at that link there. And a recording of this presentation will be made available, so you can go back and review the slides. So there's that. And then the college is working to designate areas to store files that must be kept for legal reasons or confidentiality reasons that have specific requirements that they must be stored in a secure location and that we cannot get rid of. So they're working to identify areas for that, and we're trying to understand what the requirements are and roughly the volume of records that cannot be relocated away from campus. Disposing of excess or surplus materials through the established procedures. So whether that be university surplus or hard trash. And then again, disclaimer here, if you have anything that you are concerned about as far as being hazardous waste or materials, you can reach out to environmental health and safety through OSU, and they can assist you in disposing of that potentially hazardous stuff. And then one more time, taking home all your personal items, and they won't be moved and cannot be left in the building. So some accommodations have already been made to help with this process. So trash and recycling bins have been located throughout Campbell Hall on floors 1 through 3. Those are in the southwest corner of the building. Shred bins, again, going back to the institutional data policy, I think it's level 3 or above data, they have to be securely destroyed. So those shred bins are in rooms 130 and 347. And then there are also supplies in there to begin packing belongings. Those are in room 325. So kind of rough overview of the moving activities. Again, like we talked about before, those preparation things that we just talked about. So the purge, organize, consolidate files and records, removing personal items, packing and labeling things. And then once you're ready to move out, whether that be, again, relocating for remote or hybrid, or being moved to a different building on campus, packing up those last minute items that, you kind of need on a day-to-day basis, and then and including your computer and peripherals and stuff like that, people use every day. And then after moving, you'll be responsible for unpacking those items, reconnecting your computers, and, if the lab folks or anyone else with pieces of equipment, connecting, getting those up and running and getting them commissioned. So into some more specifics about the moving assignments. So Ramseyer Hall, those dry lab research projects have actually started the moving process last week. And those projects are listed on the screen. And those will be mostly wrapped up by the end of the year. So to this point, Mark Taylor's kind of been coordinating that effort. So if you fall into one of these groups and have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or him with any questions you might have about this process. Now, the Evans Lab folks, and those would be the wet lab research projects that'll be going into Evans. An enabling projects will begin next month to prepare that space for those labs. So Pear is working to finalize the assignments for this space, and those assignments will be available next month. Once those spaces have been assigned and we kind of know where everyone's going, we can share room layouts with those occupants, and they can begin planning layout and where equipment will go and things like that. And then finally, early next year, we're going to have a presentation for these folks to talk about moving wet labs, specifically the equipment, and kind of what needs to be done to prepare that larger equipment to be moved, and other things that go along with moving labs. So keep an eye out for information on that. So timeline of events in Evans, that project isn't going to be wrapped up till May. So moving won't really begin until late April, early May. And then of course they have the same deadline as everyone else of May 27th to be out of the building. But again, following the guidelines that we talked about previously, and then we'll have a presentation set up to talk about some specifics to moving wet lab equipment and things of that nature. So finally, the remote work and hybrid folks who will be largely relocating off campus. Just kind of getting some terms out of the way when we talk about these things. I just want to make sure everyone has an idea in their mind of what we mean. So on the left there, touchdown spaces, that's going to be kind of a shared office, open office type environment. Like you can kind of see there, it looks like seven desks in a room where you can touch down and work for a brief period of time and then kind of be on your way. So we're going to be providing several of those type of spaces on campus, as well as the huddle rooms, which are private meeting rooms of generally 2 to 6 people that can hold, again, private conversations, private meetings, small group discussions, things of that nature. And then also providing larger meeting and conference rooms of 10 plus people in there for large meetings, group discussions, things like that. So this is just kind of to clarify the terms, and so everyone has an idea in their mind of what we mean when we talk about these spaces. So Ramseyer Hall, you can see the list here, 3 of those large meeting and conference rooms, 6 huddle rooms for meetings of 2 to 6 people, 27 touchdown spaces in there for faculty and staff, and then also 22 student touchdown spaces for student research assistants and people like that. PAES, there's 1 large classroom in there, 42 people, and 17 additional faculty and staff touchdown spaces. And the college is also currently evaluating some space outside of the EHE footprint to hopefully provide some more of those touchdown spaces, huddle spaces, things like that. So for the people who will be moving off campus, there's not really a hard deadline for those folks besides the May 27th. So they can kind of take the next semester and plan it out how they would like to. So doing it at a time in the semester or a pace that works best for them. Those packing materials have again been provided in room 325. And records that do not meet that criteria for storage on campus, they must be relocated off campus. So movers will be on site to assist with moving boxes from your offices in Campbell Hall to personal vehicles on the days you see here, January 6th, March 17th, and April 28th. So movers will be on site to assist with that. Please avoid parking in the spaces for research or the ADA spaces on either side of the building. There's a graphic upcoming where you'll see some of these designated spaces. So there is temporary parking available here. On the north side, 3 spaces adjacent to the north side of the building. And then on the south side, there's several spaces as well. So you can see here, the green areas are those temporary loading and unloading spaces, and the red areas, we would ask you not to park for loading and unloading your vehicles. So people working from home will be able to relocate their office furniture. The college is going to then retire those assets, and they will not have to be returned. Assistance is not going to be provided to relocate the furniture, however. So if you would like to take that office furniture home, you're going to be responsible for moving that. And same thing goes for computer equipment, responsible for setting that up, but OIT will continue to provide technical support if you need it. So once that's up and running, if something isn't working right, they'll be able to remote into your computer and help you out with whatever you need when you're working remotely from home. So again, talking about the different spaces here in Ramseyer Pace, possibly some spaces in Evans Lab as well that will accommodate those folks in the hybrid work model, scheduling those huddle rooms to host things like office hours, private meetings, that will be able to be done by faculty and staff. And then hitting that date one more time of May 27th is really the final day to have everything out of Campbell Hall. So we moved pretty quickly to this point. We'll get into some questions. I have some questions that came in ahead of time that we included here at the end of the presentation. And then again, wanting to leave a good amount of time at the end for any questions that people may have after seeing the presentation. So first off, someone asked if they'll be able to stay in their office until May when the labs are moved. Yeah, you can stay in there until May. Again, the last day is May 27th, so just keep that in mind. But you'll be able to get in and out of the building until May, and that kind of goes for everyone. Once, if you move your stuff home over spring break, besides a few things that you leave behind, just make sure to get them out by that May 27th date, and that's no big deal for people to get in and out of the building before then. Faculty and research staff being notified of office locations. Again, we're working on finalizing these assignments, and that information will be distributed next month. So how has the college determined the limited swing space will be allocated? Priority was given to those research projects, the dry lab research projects going to Ramseyer, and the wet lab research projects that will be moving to Evans. And now we're working through understanding the needs of everyone else and how we can best allocate the remaining swing space. So a lot of information has been gathered at this point, and we're working to gather even more so that we have a really complete understanding of kind of what everyone needs out of the swing space and then how we can best accommodate those needs. So will faculty offices be large enough for meetings with 1 to 3 students at a time? Generally speaking, faculty will not have private offices assigned to them. They'll be in more of those touchdown areas with the shared and open office space. But the thought is that those huddle rooms will be able to be scheduled in advance, scheduled on a regular basis. If you're going to have set office hours every week, that you can have those private meetings with 2 to 6 people or 1 to 3 students at a time. And then someone did ask, what is the deadline to remove items? And I'll say it one more time. May 27th, 2023 is the deadline to remove items. And anything left behind will be disposed of by the contractor, and there should be no personal items left in the building at that time, or the project will incur additional costs. So that kind of sums up the more broad questions that we received ahead of time. There were some more specific ones we received as well that we'll be working to address with those people. But you can see my contact info there on the screen, and also hopefully everyone has had a chance to go to that web address you see there in the EHE portal that has the frequently asked questions about the Campbell move. We'll be working to update that information as we work through more things. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open up the floor. I know the chat's been open and Morgan's been monitoring that. So I guess, Morgan, did you have any questions from the chat that you wanted to maybe bring up?
There is only one question in the chat, and it is from Rich Bruno, and it says, who will be responsible for helping with packing large heavy items that require tools and strings for assembly, as well as special packing needs, wall mounted LCD screens, dry erase boards, etc. Rich, I can kind of take that for some of the lab stuff, that bigger equipment that's like standalone equipment, the movers will be moving that. But if there's, smaller items that fit in a box, they need to go in a box.
So Rich, good question. Thank you. And that's kind of the thing that we're going to be addressing, hopefully with that presentation early next year for the wet lab folks, or even the dry lab folks that have large equipment that they'll be moving. Basically, anything hardwired or plumbed into the building, how we're going to take care of that, and how we're going to safely move that equipment. So I think Morgan did a nice job answering the question, and we hope to address, the specific questions for the wet lab folks early next year.
The next question is, where will mail and packages for remote hybrid faculty and staff go? When will that start?
So as far as mail and packages, we'll have to work with the college to determine how we can accommodate that when Campbell is being renovated. I don't think that we've started that process yet, but it's certainly been brought up to this point. Sarah, did you have something?
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt, Chris. This is Sarah McMacken, and I'm the building coordinator for Campbell. So I'm working right now with folks who are currently in Ramseyer, who have just moved over there within this past week. We think that Ramseyer 216 is going to be the location for those folks to get packages. And there is a printer and copier there that we're working to get transferred over to DHS from TNL. But more information will come for that.
Great. Thank you. That took care of that question, Sarah. So hot off the presses. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, Sarah. Next question is, how will people get mail and keys, supplies, access to copiers and Ramseyer? And how will logistics be handled? And I think we kind of touched on that a little bit just now.
Mm-hmm. I think we touched on the mail and copier. And Sarah, my understanding is you're gonna be responsible for the brass key stuff. Is that correct?
I believe so. There are certain things that I am just now becoming aware that there wasn't a process in place. So we're trying to play catch up with some of those things. But certainly, if there are any other issues that people have questions about related to keys, copying, accepting mail, feel free to contact me directly as well.
And then the last part of that question was logistics. And I guess maybe I'd ask for some more detail if that person's able to offer it, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what they were looking for. Anything else come up, Morgan?
Nope, those were the only 3 questions.
Actually, I just wanted to clarify what I was referencing when I mentioned logistics, and
Yep.
that is when folks are in the building, or how we currently have things set up, folks will come to Ramseyer 121, which is the central office for ed studies. Will it be the case that our human sciences colleagues will be coming to 121 for questions and inquiries, or will there be a different office set up related to human sciences?
So, Lori, that's an excellent question, and we're working on that right now. I've been in contact with Mark Guerrero about that, just because we don't want to burden other departments, but we also are not entirely sure if we have the bandwidth and Department of Human Sciences to move any of our administrative associates over to Ramseyer yet. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can, assist people remotely, but we're quickly trying to address that.
Thanks, Sarah.
No problem. Happy to help. While I'm talking, I wanted to make just a few comments about the trash and recycling and the shred bins. So they're located, the trash bins are also located in the basement, and shred bins are in 130, 262, and 347. Those are emptied weekly, but if you need special pickups or extra pickups, please just let me know. Unfortunately, I can't be everywhere at all times, and so if you let me know that additional pickups are needed, that would be great. And the same about packing materials. We have an abundance of them now, but if somebody needs 100 boxes, then we'll just need to order more. So thanks in advance for that.
And there's one last question, but I'm waiting for Rich to tell me which he's referring to. So it says, where will deliveries go for lab people, especially those that are temperature sensitive deliveries? So Rich, if you want to hop off mute and just tell me, tell me if it's Campbell or Evans you're asking for.
Evans. So my
Evans.
understanding is there's not going to be an admin assistant to receive packages in Evans. And orders come in all the time, dry ice, other specialty chemicals, things that need immediate attention. And if we're being forced to work remotely and in person, and there's nobody to receive these things, what's going to happen to them?
We will take down that question and bring it up with EHE, because I'm honestly not sure. There is a loading dock and everything at Evans where a lot of those deliveries do take place currently for engineering and chemistry. But yes, if there's not a specific person there, we'll get an answer from EHE on that.
And then my other question that I asked earlier was not about large lab equipment. It was large office things like LCD TVs that are on walls that are really heavy and impossible to remove by one person.
I would say for TVs, the movers are able to demount those and package them up and move them. Same thing
Okay.
for dry erase boards.
Okay.
Yep.
And will they install them at the destination?
The movers probably will not. Typically movers aren't installers, but we can work around that and get either FOD or a contractor to do that if it's needed to be mounted on the wall. So we'll just take those case by case basis as we start moving into Evans and getting that settled.
So if you have any specific needs like that, anyone on the call with those large items that are going to need to be installed by a contractor or FOD, feel free to reach out to me and we can start making those preparations ahead of time. Any other questions, anyone? No, Morgan, anything else in the chat?
Nothing else in the chat.
well, I guess, thanks again, everyone, for being on the call today. We will have more information about specific locations and whatnot next month. So please keep an eye out for that. We're working with the college to identify as many needs as possible to make sure that, you know, we can put people in the best situation we can with what's available. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'll go ahead. I'll put my contact information on the screen one more time, just so if you have anything that comes to mind and you want to shoot me an email, you can do that. Okay. So
Yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable, you know, speaking up during this, that's totally fine. Just send Chris an email and we can follow up on that. Not a problem.
Yep. So I guess if last call for any questions, and if not, we'll let everyone go. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Morgan, and the whole team for putting this together. It's been very helpful, and the college will have more. So please continue to shoot any questions our way so we can make sure that they're addressing the next presentation.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right. Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.